You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
Hold on. Welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Bill Smith. Tell me what you just said.
Well, first, thank you for the invite to the show. Hey, everyone out there. I just said that Robbie Robertson is one of my favorite lyricists. Many people may or may not know, but he was the guitar player and primary songwriter for the band, which is probably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, rock band ever.
Now, the reason why I wanted to say that was because this asshole owns my Twitter, and I can't get a Twitter handle named Robbie Robertson because this guy still tweets probably 40 times a day, even though he hasn't made a song in 20-something years, even though apparently he
Well,
hasn't.
he did just put out an album. So
I did not know that, and I don't think anybody should listen to it because he is apparently a really bad guy to his bandmates, and he owns my Twitter. That's all I gotta say.
Well, I can't disagree with you on that. I've read books from, like I said, I was a music journalist for years before I do what I do now. But I've read books from Levon Helm. I know about Rick Danko, Richard Manuel, Garth Hudson, all those guys, and they're to say there was contention is an understatement.
Well, what exactly do you?
I feel your pain about the Twitter handle. So, we're so I'm with flawedink.com, a good friend of mine. That's what we do. It's our platform. And someone had Flawed Ink on Twitter, like on every other platform, we were able to get Flawed Ink, but Twitter, someone already had it. And like the guy set it up in like 2011 and had no tweets. I'm like, thanks, ass. But
They own
whatever.
the Twitter handle. That's where you got to pay him money to get it.
Yeah, well,
It ain't worth that much.
we adapted and overcame. So
See, I was always like, that's fine. You can buy my name. I don't really care. I'll pick something else. That's why I have Rob with 2 B's, because you don't see a lot of Robs named with 2 B's.
that's true. There you go. Adapt and overcome, man. That's great.
Exactly. So what exactly do you do professionally?
Professionally, I'm I guess I'm a master or a jack of all trades, master of none. But professionally, right now, I'm a customer service representative and trainer. That's kind of I guess you would say
That's a pain in the ass job, is what I have to say. Oh my God, you're dealing with customer service. That is not exactly fun.
no. But you know what? It's I don't mind it because every once in a while you'll get someone who's just like super cool, and that really really makes it worth it. Like our last episode of our podcast, we talk about reciprocity, and the whole idea of like reaping and sowing. Giving what you get, kind of, or getting what you give, kind of a thing. And it is what it is. If someone's calling me, they got a problem, and I already know that going in, and I took the job, so.
Well, I mean, I love people, but it's the same thing. Like, it's some of them just want to be an asshole just to be an asshole. It's like, all right, man. Like, customer service, I've done basically every job I've ever had is to deal with the public. You have to put on that smile. You have to do this type of thing. I'm the type
Right.
of guy that's like, I'm going to tell you how it is. If you ask me something stupid, I'm going to be like, did you just say that? Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, I'll be more than happy to help you go to the bathroom if you need like help to get there. I'm not going to help you put on your pants or anything, but like,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
with so much going on in the world or whatever. It's just like, I always choose to help myself, even if I'm fucking lost. I need to walk around and figure out where I'm going. Like, I'm never gonna ask you for directions. I'm never gonna ask for simple stuff. I like to figure it out. But then there's people that can't help themselves and they want everything given to them. I'm like, man, what happened? What happened?
I can't I can't agree with you more. One of the things that I don't want to just get into something heavy right off the bat, but with this COVID-19 stuff, the one of the things like I've just been really seeing is people expecting the government to bail them out or to do this or do that. And I'm under the persuasion personally that if we can get a hand, if we can get help, that's great. But ultimately, yourself individually and the close-knit community that you have around you. You have to depend on one another. You have to depend on yourself. The idea of self-reliance or rugged individualism, which is something else on our podcast that we talk about all the time. I fear those are bygone notions, and I think that there's something to really be said by what you just said, and I agree with you. I really do.
Well, we have this nature as human beings to want to care for one another and want to help one another, I guess you should say. I've said for so long, I think from the beginning of this podcast to where I'm at now, I've always talked about there's always one thing that brings people together the most, and that's when a severe tragedy happens, such as 9/11, such as something like this, where we all come together. Everyone's talking on the radio. Maybe I don't know about you in Ohio, but everyone here in Ocean City, Maryland is talking about this is gonna bring the community together. People are gonna start caring about one another. We're gonna start no. It's gonna last 2 fucking weeks once this thing's over with, and then we're all gonna go back to how we were before. It's always how it happens. It never lasts super long. We lost the inherent need to help one another because it's so much beneficial to yourself to be selfish. To get anywhere in
Yeah.
this world is to be selfish. And it sucks to say, but we have the way that the world is set up, like factories, job, money, all this type of stuff. It is in line to be selfish. It is in line to, if you step on the throat of somebody beside you, you're going to go up to the top. I've learned to be self-dependent, or really on my own, just me, because my parents worked both jobs. I didn't come from a hard upbringing, but it was the fact of I was just constantly alone all the time. You learn to analyze and you learn to watch, um, learning everything I possibly could, and I never wanted to be the guy like, for instance, with the coronavirus thing that's going on. I work at a casino. We work for the state, so even if everything's shut down like it is right now, I still go into work because we have to protect money. So I saw a dude roll up at 7:30 a.m. My shift's from like 6 to 2 p.m. He rolls up and goes, "Are you guys open?" I'm like, "Dude, the whole state is on lockdown. Everything's shut down." That's how I said it to him. I said, "The whole place is locked down." He goes, "Oh, I didn't know if you guys were too." I was like, "This is like you
The
can't
whole
have
state, but
you can't have
is
more
locked
than
down.
10 fucking people. Like, we can't do that with a casino. That doesn't happen. Where there's going to obviously be more than 10 people, but Walmart stays open. I understand from the business aspect, like people need to get their groceries, but it's all a giant overreaction too, because like I said, and Joe Rogan has said, it's just too easy to get fucking food anymore. We don't know how to fend for ourselves.
I don't disagree with you, and
Well, if you do,
one of the
come on.
no, I don't disagree. I'm not just saying that to get along with you. I mean, you're cool, and I appreciate what we're doing. But if I disagree, if I have a different opinion, I'll share that with you. But my whole I would say this is, you talk about 9/11, and I think in many ways, if we can kind of step back, use logic, remember history, and everything I approach, I try to do from a spiritual point of view. So if we can understand kind of what's happening, what's going on, if we could remove our emotions for a moment, if in just kind of take a look, there's a lot of factors at play here. And I don't want to really dive into anything conspiratorial perhaps, but I just see a lot of things happening that are just really, really coincidental. For me, and once again, what we try to talk about is primarily on our our podcast called Flawedcast. We try to talk about the essential elements that America is the most successful experience in governance, and more importantly, self-governance that's ever existed. Primarily, we are protected by the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And my fear is that, like you're just talking about, like the whole state's locked down. In Ohio, that's how it is too. I was out with one of my best friends yesterday. And, we're audiophiles. Like, we collect records and CDs, and there was one record store open, and the guy, he's been open since we were like 5. He's like, "I'm not closing." So we bought some records, and then being fans of the Second Amendment. We're trying to, just see what is open and what's out. And as we're driving through our town, and I live in an upper middle class neighborhood, it looked like The Walking Dead, right? And it just kind of hit me like I've never seen this before. Like going to the stores, the shelves are just bare. It's this weird kind of dystopic thing that I'm afraid we're entering into. And for me, the concern is there's a saying, and I've always heard this, but you mentioned once again 9/11. I'm going to tie this back around. People will trade all of their freedoms for an ounce of security. When I was during 9/11, a couple things I took note of is that one, you talked about like people coming together, how that doesn't really happen anymore. That Sunday after 9/11, that Tuesday, September 11th was a Tuesday. I remember it vividly. I remember exactly where I was. I was working at a bank. I was a manager at a bank, and that Sunday was the most attended church Sunday, like in like hundreds of years, or since people started keeping record of that stuff. And then the next week, it actually went back down to the normal level. So what does that say to me? Like you were saying, in times of crisis, we do want to band together, but once crisis is averted, we go back to being, single-minded. We go back to being, looking
Well,
out for number one.
we look at it like the enemy has been annihilated, so now we can go back to how we were before. You see it with multiple things. I've experienced it. I got hit by a fucking jet ski. Okay, I almost died.
Wow.
For 2 weeks after that incident, I had a whole brand new outlook on life. I was fucking picking up like ants on the ground, like they're so beautiful and complex. How could I have never noticed this beauty before? But then after
Right.
2 weeks, I was outside stepping on shit and not giving two shits. It goes away. That feeling goes away, and it's hard to hold that. But it's the same thing we see with the terror, like the either with terrorism or any type of act. When somebody comes and confronts us, our main thing, especially like if you look at Y2K or something, is to take care of our own. Take care of yourself. That's when all the stores, people were going up in their bomb shelters, thought the world was going to end, technology was going to end. It's the same
Yeah, I was
thing
a
you're
teenager then.
yeah, it's pack hoarding. It's the same thing you're seeing now. There's people going to stores buying this and this and this, even though they don't need it. Look, I got IBS. I can't wipe my ass because there's no fucking toilet paper. I don't know what to do at this point. People are buying it just to buy it. Like it doesn't even give you the shits. But like even walking down the grocery store, everything's bare. I mean, the people there are getting promotions and like stockers are getting $500 raises. I know a couple people that have already gotten that because they don't have any
Wow.
employees. Everybody quit. It's like, oh, wait, we got to work now. But it's the whole aspect of people are going insane because they're predicting the worst. And I think it's a lot has to do with the media. A lot gets really,
Yes,
really blown out of proportion. But
absolutely.
the factor is they didn't do it in the correct way. This, like my state, for instance, should have shut down so many other things first, but they left it open and they shut down the really non-essential businesses. I've worked out every single day for 7 years, and with this coronavirus thing, all gyms are shut down. I still go to the gym and get my workout. Okay, that's not something
Yeah,
that's ending over coronavirus. Same thing with that music store you're talking about. That guy doesn't want to
right.
shut his doors. The thing is, we're trying to recover from something that has completely blindsided us, but that's for the fact that's our own fault. We weren't paying attention very closely when everything was starting to happen. It started spreading like crazy. We decided to close non-essential businesses and kept the main stuff open. What's the first place people are going to go to get groceries, and what's the giant thing where people are going to get contaminated from? Fucking Walmart. That doesn't shut down. Like you
Right,
leave
right.
that open, and they left hair cuttery places open. The legit thing was don't put your hands near anybody's face or anything like that. I'm like, you left a hair cuttery place open. Where did that slip through, and who made the rule on that one?
I don't know. And the other, I don't know. I think a lot of this stuff, and I once again I agree with what you're saying. The idea of common sense really isn't that common. What we do know about this is that what we do know about this and what isn't being brought up again in the mainstream media, like you were just recognizing, is the origin of this. And not to get too political, but I mean, this was created under the Obama administration at a D4 facility in North Carolina. Now, whether it was sold or given to the Chinese, I don't know. But at some point, this was created here, and the Chinese were given this thing. And then at that point, whether they were just negligent or whether it was released on purpose, once again, I don't know. And I say that because I feel like we won't know the truth just because the initial outbreak stemmed or started in China. We're just not going to know the facts because it's so tight-lipped over there, if you will. But nonetheless, the important thing I feel like is we need to be calm, but we also need to use common sense. I mean, like washing your hands, yeah, that's a good thing. I actually I've been doing a lot of research about history. I've been looking at the Great Depression because I'm honestly not too concerned about the coronavirus. I personally don't know anyone that has it. And our governor yesterday, Mike DeWine, gave an update, if you will, and basically, like you're saying, all non-essential businesses are shut down. Now, like you're talking about your gym or like my record store. To me, those are essential. I don't know about
Yeah, well, I
John.
look at fitness for people think of it as a gym as like, oh, this is just oh, I can work out next week or something. Not for me because it keeps the demons away. I have a lot of them, and
I
trust me,
get it. Yeah.
no pill can ever solve that issue. I'm not right when I'm not at the gym or don't get that workout in the morning. But like you were mentioned before, conspiracy theory. I don't want to stick the whole podcast on fucking coronavirus because everybody's getting pulled from really mentioning it for too long. But
Yeah, I know.
the fact is, Netflix fucking released a lot of good shit this month, and now we're all stuck inside our house. I mean, is that weird? I do think so.
Well, isn't it also weird that just in the last couple months that there's been all these movies about pandemics and outbreaks?
I feel
What
like
wasn't
it's a
there a movie called?
placebo effect. That's what it
Yeah,
is. We're all getting
yeah,
so
yes.
scared, and everything's got us scared that we're actually making ourselves sick. That's what it is. There's 3 people in my state at this point where we're recording that have coronavirus. I do know a couple people that have their family is in quarantine because they have a family member. I get it. I understand. It looks like it's hitting the elderly more than younger kids like me. But at the same time, like, kids can still die from it. The person that died in my state was like in 26 or something. I think if it like we've been watching movies our whole entire life, TV shows, everything, zombie apocalypse. If it's gonna
Yeah.
fucking happen, let's let's get it going. Cause honestly, this thing's gonna keep getting worse, even if you cut everything off, because it's out there now. It's infected here, so it's just gotta run its course.
Well, you're 100% right. It's almost like The Walking Dead. But my concern, and yeah, we can switch topics. I'll just say this. 3 of my best friends lost jobs this week that they've made careers at. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, 2 weeks from now that the COVID's good, or the coronavirus, whatever the Wuhan coronavirus, whatever you want to call it. Say, oh, hey, we're good now, right? The economical impact that this has caused is not something that's going to be so easily recovered from. And I don't know the route back to that. The economy by all measures was doing excellent. And then 11 days ago, at least in Ohio, and the governor reported there are 3 people that passed away from coronavirus, and while that's tragic, how are we, what is a measured response? What is the proper thing to do? It's hard to really say, but I think, I don't know. I'm just afraid of losing civil liberties. Like I said, I value freedom above all. I value the idea that I am a responsible, mature adult that can make my own decisions. I can think for myself. I don't want to lose my civil liberties, and I feel like already my First, Third, and Fourth Amendment rights have been encroached upon, and that's what concerns me
Yeah,
personally.
it happens all the time. See, I always brought up the fact that all right, before I want to hit this statement real quick. It is now as we're recording this. Yes, people, these aren't live or anything, so it's probably going to go up in like a week or so from when we're recording it. But it is Monday the 23rd. Okay, this is where we're thinking out with Corona right now. What I think my prediction in like the next week or 2 weeks of where this virus is going to end up is the fact is all these small businesses are going to have to sell or they're going to have to do something, and big corporations like Walmart that have plenty of money, that have a giant safety net, are going to start swooping up some property. That seems like it could be that, or it could just be something that we recover of and then we move past it. But a lot of businesses are going to be lost. Now, I've always talked about one thing. There is the government is red, white, and blue. It's supposed to be true. That is 100% what it is. But the factor is the people who run the government are not the nicest people, and they choose to be corrupt, much like a lot of us would choose to be in a place of power or a place with a lot of wealth. Okay. Now, let's talk about which I've always said in the beginning, and then I ended up stop really talking about the government as much. But the whole factor is with immigration, everything that Trump passed, or all these types of tight barriers and people not wanting immigrants over here because their jobs are being taken, whatever that is. But it brought in culture and brought in a lot of different things that we all sure grabbed upon. And like, my friend who has a Hispanic family or something, he has 10 people living in his house. Like, you're telling me now we have a limit now, you can't have more than 10 people in your fucking house. What about the people that have 15 in there? It doesn't make any sense. But the government has always been afraid of two things. One is the people, because when we gather up together and we rise up, we cause riots, we fight, and we protest, they get scared. But we're easily distracted, so they can easily throw our mind somewhere, such as with PETA, the animal cracker situation. We were doing some shady shit in Iraq. Next thing you know, the government was getting looked upon, and PETA saw, like, as their thing to attack, that they saw fucking animal crackers behind bars on the boxes. They took that shit off, and the government was like, "There you go. You won a small battle. You didn't win the war." But and then they could never test religion because religion's too old. But even when I said this statement exactly last year around this time to a rabbi, he didn't believe me. And then after a week after we stopped recording, the Vatican archive, 4 priests were arrested. And I said, that's the government now starting to fight against religion, because with all this immigration, with all these different things, you're seeing a lot more people that are of different religions, Muslim, whatever. And then you have people that aren't believing in a religion because there's just so much out there. Our religion, people that believe in it right now, is at an all-time low because everything's been corrupt and everything's been so topsy-turvy. We've been soaked up with too much information. The same example could be me from when I first started this podcast talking about pooping, which I still kind of do, but where I'm at now, where my head is in a completely different, because I've soaked up way too much information from talking to almost 400 something people.
Right. Well, as Calvin Coolidge said that knowledge comes, but wisdom lingers. And I think what you just described is the fact that knowledge is disposable. It's temporary. We just had a podcast about this, actually. It was called Wisdom Lingers. And, the idea that, when I was in college, like if I had to go back right now and take all those tests again or go through those courses again, I would fail miserably because that knowledge was a temporal thing. But wisdom, your life experiences, the conversations, like you were just saying, that people that you have spoken to that have impacted you, that they have deposited some wisdom or some nugget of experience in your life, in your own experience, like you're talking about, that does nothing but mature you and shape you and help you to become a more well-rounded individual, that you aren't monolithical in your worldview. I hear what you're saying about religion. Quite, my persuasion is, I'm a Christian. Like, I really, really love Jesus. I have a lot of angst and a lot of I don't see eye to eye with a lot of the modern church, especially in America.
It's because it turned into something it's not. I know so many people that have lost their religion or choose to worship at home only because it doesn't seem like it was initially what they were brought into, such as like, we're all supposed to be here together worshiping this loving God. Now it's like, you don't believe or you have question, we don't want you in our church anymore, because it's a community aspect. That's the whole reason like
Yes.
church is so much fun, is because you're around people that think the same as you and you get to meet amazing people. But the way the church does it now, it's because some people got put in there that are wrong. Like I said, nothing is really the idea that's wrong. It's only the concept of who's running it and making it go their certain way. I like
Well,
the
it's a
new pope.
practical application. Yeah, it's so for example, I was having this conversation with a friend of mine the other day who, he had there's like a bunch of us that get together on Sunday nights. We call it bar church. We'll have cigars and a couple drinks, and then we'll talk about God. We'll talk about what's going on in our lives, and that's those kind of things. And the reason I bring that up is because, if anyone reads the Gospels, what they're going to start to realize is a couple things. A, Jesus really is a cool guy. B, that the people that he hung out with really aren't the same type of people that you're going to find in a lot of churches, especially a lot of American churches. For example, he hung out with hookers. He hung out with, the Bible called tax collectors, which would kind of be like a Tony Soprano kind of a guy, right? A lot of people that were sick or that had infirmities, and there's this notion that in these circles of faith that I have to have my shit together. The reality of it is that in why we call our podcast, or why our web address is flawedink.com. Our episodes are we're called Flawed Cast, is because of that notion that everybody is flawed, that everybody is imperfect, and that's okay. It's not like you're talking about. You're growing, like as a person, as an individual. You're starting to see there's more sides than you realize.
Well, I drink my milk, damn it.
Well, yeah, but
Growing boy, you got to drink the milk.
That's right. But see what you just said. You got to drink the milk, not the Kool-Aid.
Oh, like some Heaven's Gate shit.
Well, it doesn't even have to be that outright maniacal. It could just be. Like, see, one thing I've encountered is that most people that in my experience, and my college degree is in journalism and in English, but I am an ordained minister.
Me too,
And
dude. Where are you ordained at?
It's called the Church of God, Cleveland, Tennessee. Although
mine's the Church of Bacon.
Okay,
No,
cool, man.
I'm legit serious. Like, I have my ordained minister's license. It was an hour and a half of my time at my Maryland courthouse to get that thing certified, and it cost $45. But I did it on the aspect of, I ran into 2 Jehovah's Witnesses on the boardwalk, and they were condemning people to hell for not believing in a religion. And I just asked him what made him feel like he should do that, and he was like, because you're going to go to hell if you don't believe in God. And I was like, there are people out there that don't think that way.
Well, we can get into all those kind of different.
We're hitting all the major ones we probably shouldn't be talking about, like Corona and then religion, but it's good conversation.
Right. See, people are like, well, you can't talk about politics, you can't talk about religion. And I would argue respectfully, these are the things we need to talk about. Like I said, like I believe in Jesus. I believe in his sacrifice and in the cross, and that through him we have eternal life. But because that's my experience, and my life leads me to my experiences I've had through life, and my understanding and my studying allows me to know that for me, that is what's real. Now, if someone wants to believe something else, okay, that's their prerogative. I'm not, I don't want to come across as an elitist of saying, well, you think differently than me, so you suck. I don't see any merit in that. And quite frankly,
you have your own upbringing, you have your own belief. That's what I try and tell people, is the way you've come about in this world, all the information you've gathered from your life whether your environmental influences to your family, everything as you were a child gets instilled into you as an adult. Now, if you grow up on your own, you get education, like maybe street smarts a certain different way than someone who has. I've talked to people that have doctorates, I've talked to people that have PhDs, and I could tell you some shit that you would automatically know was like, that's common sense. They don't know because it's a
Oh,
piece of
yeah,
paper. It's a piece of
absolutely.
paper. Everyone looks at the degree and these titles. That's why I hold my college diploma below my ordained minister's license, because they're all pieces of paper to me. We're all on
Yeah,
journeys and getting different information and stuff. But the thing is, when you get too stubborn in your own thinking that you think nobody else is right but you, that's when
right.
the church becomes a problem. That's when everything becomes a problem, because people, like we say, they do get set in their ways. But I just try and stay open minded. Like, fuck it. You believe in aliens. Let's talk about it. No conversation should be an argument. It should just be two people talking. Doesn't mean you have to agree, but see the other person's perspective and
Right.
just have that talk.
Right. I mean, I agree. And I think these things that initially when they started, let me just use two examples. The whole notion of Christ coming to earth really was to you know show us like a better way, like a more loving way, right? Or even if you want to look at the creation of our the founding fathers creation of our government, the bedrock of our society. Like, those guys didn't get along. And if anyone knows anything about like real American history, not revisionist American history, they're going to know that. But through their discourse, they were able to create this document, this beautiful, wonderful document called the Bill of Rights, that ensured us certain inalienable rights, and if you will. And even though, once again, those guys didn't agree, they didn't see eye to eye a lot, they still were able to set their personal differences aside and say, what we are doing is way more important than us. You don't know, Rob, that this conversation we're having, like, and this is what we've discovered in what we're doing in our podcast. We don't know that this conversation someone's going to hear, and it literally could change their life. And I'm not trying to say or be presumptuous, like I'm all that, or whatever. That's not what I mean. But at some point in my life, something happened, or I heard something, or I saw a movie, or I listened to a song, or whatever it was that impacted me in a very, very profound way. And the beauty of what you do, and like I said, I've listened to your episodes, and not all like 500 of them, but I've listened to
I don't expect anybody to listen to everything I say. That's too
no,
much
I know, but
Robbie for anybody.
well, my point being is that you're making a difference. One of the things that one of our motto is get in the arena. And we basically take that from the Theodore Roosevelt speech, The Man in the Arena. And he says it's not the critic who counts. It's not that person that's throwing shade, saying you could have done this better, you could have done this different, right? But it is the man in the arena. It is the one whose face is marred with sweat and blood, who tries valiantly. And it's a very powerful speech. If anyone, just Google it. It's there, and I read it, and it invigorates me. But the whole idea of getting in the arena, it's like trying. It's like giving a damn. And like the life of Abraham Lincoln is a great example.
Wow,
Arguably,
look, you're talking about one of my favorite presidents here.
well, okay, well then this is not going to be anything new to you. Arguably, Lincoln, his whole life was just a big fuck up. I mean, like he never succeeded at anything, but he, and I would argue this, the hand of providence placed him in the position of power in one of the most severe crises that our country endured, especially at that time. And I can't think of any other man in history that would be able to navigate that like he did.
Well, see, the problem is with every single one of our presidents, and they weren't really all liked. Not everybody loved JFK. A lot of people didn't.
Sure.
They didn't love him
Well,
until
obviously
after,
they
yeah,
killed him, So
after they're out of office is when they start to love him. We're seeing that with Trump right now. He's about to be out. Next thing you know, everybody's like, love Trump, love Trump. I was like, you guys were shitting on him constantly for not doing a great job. And then you realize, oh shit, it's because we like being comfortable. We like being used to something. It takes us a long time, but once that thing starts to leave us, we're like, oh fuck. Like, I don't know what this new president's going to be like. Like, holy crap, what's going to happen? I'm scared. Let me stick with the old Trump, the one I've learned to hate. But you learn to love it. It's the same thing. Reagan. People hated Reagan. Then when he gets out, he was one of our best presidents ever. Same thing with JFK. Same thing with Abraham Lincoln. All these people that are remembered through history for being amazing presidents. I don't hear people talking really shit on Obama right now. Everyone's like, oh, Obama, he did his job. He did his good. Because there's always somebody down the line that does worse, that does worse, that does worse. And you forget about those things and you get graduation goggles where you look at them and remember. Abraham Lincoln, one of his quotes was the same thing I was talking about when the people get divided up because their attention can get driven somewhere, like PETA with the animal cracker shit.
Right.
When the government's doing some sketchy stuff, the people, if they rise up to complain about it, they can easily divide our attention, which Abraham Lincoln's quote was, a house divided cannot stand.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was from Night at the Museum too. Shout out to Ben Stiller for keeping me informed. But
nice. There you go.
Literally, like you mentioned on
well,
your
that
first...
actually is that actually is from the Bible.
What, the house divided cannot stand?
Yeah.
I thought that was Abraham Lincoln's quote.
Well, he quoted it, he paraphrased it, but that effectively is from the scriptures.
Well, that's literally what every president does. They got to quote God somewhere in there.
Well, I mean, he was a good writer. Think of what think of him what he will. He says
he's just
really
taking
powerful.
bits and pieces off like everything and then just forming it into one sentence. Like, what is this giant speech that he had? Like, crap! I can't believe I'm for blanking on Abraham Lincoln's speech. I literally
Gettysburg
wrote it down.
Address.
Whatever one he was talking about the railroad or something.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I'm
drawing
a blank now too.
And something years ago, there was that's like JFK reading. I just went into a JFK impression. Whoops.
JFK doing the beginning of the Gettysburg Address.
I prefer to stick it with Christopher Walken if anybody's going to read an address to me. I don't think I almost just
on Saturday Night Live. Anyway, yeah, that's
I almost just read my own address as a joke. Whoops. Okay. But like if we look at everything that really goes on in the world, I think it's just a factor of we need to pay attention. And I understand where people say ignorance is bliss, because before I started this podcast, I didn't have as much depression as I do now. It's no fault of my guests. It's no fault of anything. It's just so much information I understand about how and what works now. My mind is completely changed. It's like when in the Matrix, shout out to Robert Dumont, who kind of uses this reference when we're talking. He goes, I wish I would have just took the blue pill and fell back into a simulation, because ignorance is bliss, not knowing what's going on, which has been happening for so long. Now we're waking up. We're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what's happening? We're having a political race right now. What's he siding with? Hold on a second. Who's acting better during this giant outbreak right now? Trump's doing a lot of shit. Media has tried to shit on him. They had to retract a lot of stuff he said because it was all wrong. He's stepped up. I mean, it's the world. History, if you look through it, like much like you have said, we're repeating our same mistakes in a different scenario.
Well, and that's the thing. History, and this is why I'm always a big proponent on history. History does nothing but repeat itself. And if we aren't aware of the sins of our fathers, if you will, we will fall into those same snares, those same those pitfalls, because the one thing that is not ever changing is the human condition. I mentioned earlier, like, we're flawed. There's nothing new under the sun, right? So, just because like our generation may not have experienced something, that doesn't mean like our grandfather's generation or their grandfather's generation didn't experience something similar and fell into the same pitfalls and stuff. But that's why and just a little personal thing about me, like growing up, one of my favorite shows was the Dukes of Hazzard. Like, I love the Dukes of Hazzard, Bo and Luke Duke, and I just, every Friday night when I was a kid, I used to watch it, because thought I just loved it, Uncle Jesse and all that. And, when I don't really know how this happened, but a couple years back, they started taking like the reruns off of TV because they had the rebel flag on their car, or they started in the South removing statues of like Robert E. Lee or Andrew Davis or these historical figures. Now, the problem with me, and I'm not a racist. I hate racism. I hate people that I don't. I won't say I hate people. I hate the idea of someone looks different or someone subscribes to a different ideological philosophy than I do, so they're automatically bad or evil. I don't subscribe to that. But what I do subscribe to, what is 100% necessary, is that those markers, those statues or whatever those were, they at this point in history shouldn't be to commemorate their ideology. It should be used as a reminder of what we can't de-evolve back to. It's like Holocaust deniers, or saying like,
Dude, Bill, I love where you're going, but I have to say one thing. You fucking hit every single topic everyone avoids in literally a matter of less than an hour. I
well,
like
listen,
it.
man,
I love it, and
well, that's what we talk about.
well, that's what I reached out to you about because I saw you know what? This is gonna be the last shameless plug for Flawless or Flawed Ink because
Flawedink.com. Yeah,
you've done it like 50 fucking times. Just like
I know, man. Listen,
plugging
I
more
just want to do.
holes in the
Sorry, bro.
people in the Titanic that get hit with an iceberg and they're trying to shove everything in the sticking gum in the rafters and shit. I'm pro people, so that's fine. I'm perfect with that. But when I was reading about your podcast, is we don't steer away from any single topic. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but
Yeah, no.
movies, religion, all these types of things you said that you talk about. If it hurts you, like you said at the beginning, then you shouldn't be taking any offense by it. It's just two people talking. That's literally what this is. Now you did hit freaking coronavirus, then you hit religion, then you hit race, and then you tossed out the Holocaust. So with the race thing, that's what we're seeing every single day. I had a thought. Racism's always going to exist. That's just a fact. Sorry, people, it's never going to go away. But we're doing it in
Yeah.
we're doing it in a different form today, and one I really don't appreciate and one I really don't like. Hashtag groups such as hashtag black podcasting, hashtag black this, hashtag white
Yeah.
this, hashtag this, that, this, hashtag fucking vegan is turning into a race movement. Like that's really, that one's swinging me the wrong way on that one. But like,
Is that a thing for real?
yeah, I mean, you can look up
Oh,
hashtag vegan and everybody's Instagram username usually starts out with something. I'm vegan chick 420. It's like, okay, can we just not like if you're introducing yourself to someone and you say, "Hi, my name's Clarice. I'm vegan." You're like, "What the fuck are you saying to me? I don't care what you eat. I don't care who you are. Do what you want. Everybody is different, okay?" But with the
yeah.
hashtag, like I had some dude come out to me and tell me like, "I don't think you're right on the hashtag thing. I think those groups are needed. I see your point. I really do." But I think it does the whole wrong thing by isolating people from not being able to join your group, by being able to do this. Everything should be pro people. We shouldn't have hashtag white, shouldn't have hashtag black. It should just be hashtag people. Treat people the way you would want to be treated. We've been
Well, and I would even say this. Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt you. If somebody is solely identifying themselves on what they eat, I'm very sorry. I don't mean to be insultive. However, if you are introducing yourself or your whole idea about who you are as a person is based upon your diet, I really question, well, what kind of substance as a human being do you have?
Look, I do joke around with these vegan people. Someone put up a post and was like, "Here's ways to be vegan" or something, and it was like all these types of things you can eat. And then at the bottom, it was like, do this, do that, and then at the bottom there was another one. And I said, "You forgot. Tell everybody you're fucking vegan because that's all they do. They just shove it in your face." I get it if it changed your life. I get if it shows a benefit. Same thing with primal diets. People that eat all meat, they don't go around telling everybody they do it. They just do it. It's just you got your own diet, you got your body's a completely different way. I understand
Right.
it. It's not fun when you're going to a restaurant and you have to, look at the menu for an hour and a half to figure out if anything was cooked near animal meat or something. That gets a little bit difficult. I messed with my buddy about that, but everybody's genetically different. But we have this thing about us is we like to be the same. We like to do this. We like to do this. We can't. Differences are okay as long as they're not super huge changes. You saw that with government projects and conspiracy theories, or that turned out to be true. Everything we've ever tested on the public or doing experimentation on something has, even in any country, has been on another fucking country, someone that doesn't look like us. We've tested with
Well, not always. You know, there was the Tuskegee experiments.
that
There
was
was
that was in a whole different country when it first started out until we brought it here. That was in
Wow.
Africa. We did things called oh my god, Project Diversion, where we would literally go to Africa, found out there were people that wanted to be, or that were gay, that would like another man if they were a guy, or like a woman if they were a woman. You know what we did to them? We changed their sex so it was right. We would cut off dudes' dicks, so if they were liking another dude, they'd be a chick. We did that. We've done so much messed up shit. Don't get me started on the government projects like Westbrook Hill High School, where we took an
Yeah.
old high school and we've stuffed mentally challenged people in there like they're freaking, rats or something, and we injected them with freaking syphilis, all these other types of shit,
Yeah.
just to test and see what happens to the people. We've done fucked up shit, and we're going to keep doing fucked up shit. And that's why when I tell people, when you're surprised that something comes out like, we were doing what, where, I'm like, are you just really that surprised? If you look through history, we've done that before.
Well, right. No, and that's exactly what like when you mention, I know you're going to know this. If you mention Operation Paperclip to people, they're going to be like, what's that? But
Yeah,
everything
and
that
then
you're just talking about stems from that.
yes, literally our whole
And
no one understands our space program is by Nazi invention. We literally
yes,
taken
exactly.
everything from the Nazis. See, the thing was, when you say Operation Paperclip, people are like, what? The name is literally what it says. They stuck files with paper clips onto scientists' shirts that were all different research departments of the Nazi program after they lost. Okay, the thing was, like we're seeing people come together now. Every country, the major ones at least, like Britain, whatever, all these giant countries got together because they realized this small country of Germany was going to tear everybody apart. They were moving way too quick, and if their country was a little bigger, they probably would have succeeded. But we got together, Russia did, everybody, and we split the groups up. Everyone got a pick. Everyone got their hands in the Nazi research facilities. We forgave them from their crimes or whatever, the Nuremberg trials, just so we could take their research. Russia got the people that are talking about chemical warfare, all those, or no, it was biological warfare, I think. No, wait, it was chemical, I'm pretty sure. Because then they were the ones that were ahead in the psychic programs at the time. So let's look at it like this. Russia, America, China, okay, all these three guys right here. Then you got, let's put Nazi Germany at the top, okay? I'm not saying they're better. I'm saying they were way more advanced than we were. So imagine their information was 20 years ahead from everybody else. Everything they had was 20 years ahead. They've been working with the bubonic plague long before we even figured out how to use it. He had a weapon that would detonate bubonic plague and spread it everywhere. China took that. They got the biological or whatever, the chemical stuff. They picked those scientists. Us, we picked the astronauts, because at the time during all this,
well, it's a space race.
We were fighting during the space race. Exactly. So we were like, we got to get the fucking space first. So we're going to take all your space scientists. Russia was like, kind of really got the bad end of the deal. I would say they kind of got chose maybe second or close to last. They were like, we'll take the chemical or whatever. And then they started working on psychic warriors because they thought that people could have a harnessed ability of psychic abilities, which led to the movie Men Who Stare at Goats, which was the Jedi Project, that whole thing. People can go look all this
MK
information
Ultra,
up.
all that stuff.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look over and you see let's take a look at China, for instance. There was a thing that a lot of people don't know about, the secret plan to attack America, which would have won them the war. After Pearl Harbor, there was a planned attack. 6 months to hit San Francisco with these giant, basically it's like a sub that would pull off. They would launch these missile or pods that would hit in San Francisco, and they would release fleas, everything.
And Midway stopped that, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. And that
the Battle of Midway put it into that.
Yeah, they were all filled with the bubonic plague, all these ticks and fleas, whatever. Imagine trying to kill a fucking flea in your house. It's impossible. Shit's hard as hell. So imagine 150 million of them hitting onto San Francisco and spreading bubonic plague throughout our whole entire place. Because they
got people shitting on the streets now in San Francisco. So it actually, I guess maybe in the long run, it's
well, that would have killed everybody. But they literally,
I know you're saying.
We would have been living in that their country. This wouldn't have been America. But we got to them
Right.
first, long before the plan was ever a thing. It's called Operations Cherry Blossoms at Night. People can look it up. Hiroishi led the project. He led Unit 7 or 731. That was 10 times worse than the Nazis, but you only pay attention to the Nazis because that's the one they teach you in the history books.
Right.
People known to do some shady shit. It's going to keep happening. It's going to keep going under our eyes. I always just said, you know how easy it would fucking be if the government just told us what they were doing so we don't have to go and pry? Because we get more pissed when we find out later. You know, it's like
Right.
Area 51. I always said with the Area 51 giant thing, everybody freaking out. If you would just charge $10 a head and make them sign a waiver saying we're not reliable or we're not liable for if you get fucked up and figure out what we're doing, there would be people that would go, a deal. And they would sign it. They'd walk in and be like, I didn't want to see any of that. It's like, that's why we were protecting you, but you wanted to fucking
Mm.
go in there. And then there's going to be people that are like, I fucking knew it. There were aliens. We knew it.
Right. No, actually, and that would be actually a really good way for the government to recoup some of its. Anyway, that's a whole nother.
Well,
That's a whole.
our problem is with it. We get so mad about it. It's because they were fucking lied to. No one wants to be lied to. When Sherry told me she was going to watch her cousin or something as a babysit thing, and then we had to cancel our date. Next thing I know, she's banging Jeff from down the street. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you lied to me, bitch. Just tell me you were banging him, and then we could get past it.
Right. Well, and I think ultimately what you're talking about, and I mentioned this before, it's the human condition, right? And, from my worldview, it literally started, Adam and Eve and a serpent and an apple, and everything's been the same ever since. We do hate being lied to, and the duality of that is that as much as we hate being lied to, there is that side of us that perpetuates those lies at times also. And that's a part of the duality of the human condition. But in regards to what you're saying, as far as there's going to be racism, there's going to be discrimination, there's going to be people who are evil that are trying to perpetrate heinous things again. Like I say, fighting tyranny. Like I hate tyranny. I hate it. I hate the oppressiveness. I hate the fact that I can't be free. And the older I get, the more I love and appreciate the fact that, well, for the most part, we still live in a country where most of my decisions I can make of my own volition.
Freedom.
Exactly.
Rules are important, though, because I swear to God, if I didn't have a bedtime when I was a kid, there would be a lot of fucked up shit in the neighborhood. M80s, all this stuff.
Well,
getting
no.
thrown in the mailboxes.
Well, see, and that's right. See, guidelines or boundaries, if you will, that's a completely different thing from freedom. Jocko Wilkins has the book called Discipline Equals Freedom, right? We find that within structure, within the confines of discipline, if you will, there is a freedom to that. Like with your bedtime. Yeah, you got to be at bed at 8, because if not, you're going to be up all night. They're going to be cranky. You're going to be a bear the next day for your parents or teachers or whatever. But also, your neighbor 4 houses down is going to get toilet paper. Then the person across the streets, your yard's going to get forked. And then, you're going to spray paint like a dick or something on, the people on 2 blocks. So, so having structure isn't a bad thing. And that's like with the Bill of Rights, those are important things. Those are things to protect us. But the older I get, it's not an anarchy thing. It's just like freedom, the freedom to choose, the freedom to make your own decision, whether it be politically, whether it be spiritually, whether it be economically, whatever the case may be, whether it be the job you have. That, that is so important, not to once again be too religious, but the Bible says, it's for freedom that Christ set us free, which basically means, he sacrificed himself on the cross that we can make our own choices, that we as individuals, as humans, part of that human condition, we aren't cookie cutter. We aren't these factory assembled robots that we all program the same way. We all function the same way. You're talking about, you got a buddy that is a vegan, and then, you got another buddy that, is a carnivore, whatever. Like, we all have our own natural proclivities. That is that freedom. Not everybody is the same. And I guess that's just what I mean, simply put.
Well, the reason we have beliefs, we have, our own ideas of things too, and the way we go up. Some people aren't religious, some people are religious. That's why I try and tell people, like, that we just literally had a conversation where we talked about a lot of things that people are going to try and steer away from. It's not saying we know anything. It's not saying we know
Oh
everything. It's
no.
like we know some stuff, but obviously people are going to know more than us. There's always going to be someone that knows more than us, and there's always going to be someone that has an opposing view. I just tell people we literally just had different sides on some things. A lot of things that people would sit there and let that ruin a friendship, let that ruin a conversation, and we didn't let that happen. It's it's
Nah.
it's so simple just to fucking talk. And it really gets me upset now is with this virus thing that's happening. People are on the radio, especially in my town, saying it's showing that we need to have conversation again. We need to have. I'm like, I've been saying this for fucking years. It took a virus to get us there. That's what I always mention. Why does it take to get that connection, to get that maybe understanding of another person, to be that open mindedness? And they always say, well, maybe it's just changing your perspective. I mean, that can help. Yeah, someone draws a dick on my lawn. I could be like, man, that's some artistic skill. But more like than not, you're going to be pretty fucking pissed off that someone did that. And that's just because we overreact. We don't consider everything at its hand. I mean, even when I studied psychology, I look at people different now. If I see some dude freaking out in a store, yeah, and my first initial reaction is like, really, bro? Which I will do. I will call people out on their shit. I don't play that because I want someone to call me out on my shit too. Um,
Yeah.
but like I'll be like, really? Are you that upset or something? But in my head, I'm looking at him and I'm like, you're really freaking out because a woman in front of you has more items in the checkout line. There's something else going on here. And you
Sure.
see the guy get into his car. Next thing you know, he has a spare tire on his car. He probably just experienced a flat. He's having a rough day. But we project everything as people. Now, when it comes to the rights factor, we are given rights. We have been granted those in the country that we live in. It's the same reason why, like, if you don't like it, then get the fuck out. Well, the whole thing is our rights are being impeded on. Our rights are being taken away from us without us fully knowing because people don't care about that. They care that Starbucks is now closed. It's like, hold on a second, more shit is in the works than you think.
Well, and that's what I was saying earlier when I was a banker, like in the Patriot Act first rolled out. I'm like, wait a second, wait, and I'm like 20, right, 21 when this happens, and I'm like, wait a second, wait a second, wait a second. This doesn't feel right. I, and it goes back to what I was saying earlier. Most people will give all of their security, or they'll give all their freedom away for an ounce of security. And I'm not. Listen, you hit the nail on the head, Rob. I'm not a tough guy. I'm not. I don't know. I mean, the older I get, the more I learn, the more I realize I really don't know anything. I know a few things, but what I do know is that I'm just not willing to forsake my freedom. Once again, my freedom to worship who I want to, freedom to, participate in this government, this experiment of the American government, whatever you want to say. I'm not willing to give up my freedoms for security, because the relevant is I'm ultimately responsible for that. And I think that kind of comes full circle to what we were initially talking about: rugged individualism, self-reliance. Like, and that's one of the things you'd mentioned, that, and I respect that about you, because I had a conversation. I was having a cigar the other night with my buddy. We were talking about stuff, and kind of like this, and the guy that was he overheard us. He goes, one of my best friends, he goes, I'm not trying to interrupt, but one of my best friends just said to me, he goes, I don't want to think about anything. I just want the government to run my life, and I just want to work. I want to make sure my kids are okay, and I'll just let them figure everything out. My buddy Jason and I, we're just looking at each other like that is the antithesis of where we come from, and where I used to think most Americans was coming from. But that kind of sentiment scares me. I'm not trying to throw shade on anyone, but that scares me.
Well, we just want to live and be comfortable as people. We don't want to worry about everything. We don't want to worry every single day, but we live in a world and a society that is like that. It's been programmed way too long the wrong way. We lost the initial care, and something like this has to fucking shock us to the point where we have to start caring about one another again. I've never seen so much people reach out to other people saying, I'll drop food off for the elderly. I'm like, are you doing that because for yourself, or are you doing that like for your ego? Like, I started to notice people at, like, if you go to a Home Goods, or if you go to a store and they donate like 2 cents, you want to donate that 2 cents to save a starving child, sure, why not? they would go and try and ring a bell, and I would stop them. And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "We need to tell people you donated." I'm like, "Why the fuck would you do that?" Like, I'm so shocked. And people are like, "Oh, you're being self-righteous. You're being humble. You're being whatever." I'm like, "No, no, no, no. I donated 2 cents that I don't give two shits about, except maybe your 2 cents, Bill. I obviously care about what you're saying." But you like that little
No,
spin?
no. I'm not taking offense, man. It's how you feel.
Well,
I mean,
well, well. I meant like 2 cents, like as in you ask somebody for their 2 cents. I'm saying
yeah, like
I don't.
if your purchase is a buck
Yeah,
98, would
I'm
you want
saying
to
I don't
run
care
that up to
about the
2 bucks?
actual currency. I care more. I actually do care about your thoughts, not the currency, though. It was a little small joke. It was terrible. I'm sorry. I had to explain it and ruined it. But
No, I was on the same page with you, dude. It's okay though. Listen,
but
no, you're being an effective communicator, and I appreciate that.
well, it's the same thing. Like when they want to tell everybody I donated and something, I'm like, it's not my right. It's not my job. It's not my, I don't want people to glorify me for donating 2 cents. It's probably not going to really help out or do anything. But people will donate like 1 cent or something, and they'll be like, ring the bell. And next thing you know, everybody's clapping for that person. I'm like, you don't know how much they donated. You don't know how much that they're actually
Right.
affecting anything. Yeah, they did that, but they don't want the change. Everybody wants cards in their wallets or something. Nobody wants to carry around pennies or something, even though every time I say that, I always get something that's like, it's $2.99. I'm like, damn. So I have to break a full on thing for it, and you're gonna give me a penny back? We'll keep the penny. But it's like the whole aspect of like
Well, I'm impressed that you use cash.
I honestly, I mean, I try to. I used to hate doing the card thing because all the scams and the people out there that will like use your information. But I mean, it is beneficial to carry a card like when you're getting gas, because what will we do? We just choose to do self checkout nowadays. Nobody ever wants to talk to anybody anymore. I mean, I'm at fault for doing it myself too. Much
Right.
rather. Mine's more of a lazy factor because I don't feel like walking inside to go, $20 on pump 3. The next thing I know, I get $10 of gas. I got to walk back in all awkwardly. Like, I overcounted. They're like, you mean you
Right.
overestimated? I was like, I don't know words that well. I failed math 3 times.
Yeah. Well,
But I like doing that because like we're saying, educating people or explaining myself. I just try to explain exactly everything, but I also try and use humor. By using humor, people understand easier. If you go sit there and try and speech them for 45 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, whatever, it's not a fun conversation to listen to. But if you crack jokes, you make little references here and there, they soak up the information and also get to have fun doing it as well. But you're sitting there speeching, it's going to be like class where we're just sitting there fucking
right.
drooling on the table or, jacking off
Yeah.
or doing something I did that I probably shouldn't have been
Well, I
doing.
mean, you catch more bees with honey than vinegar, and that's
Exactly.
just how it is. So I get you.
But it's a journey. It's a life that we're all living, and we should be happy that we're here and we have things that are going on for us, like air in our lungs. A lot of people can't really see that at some points. I'm at fault sometimes myself. I get my dark moments, when I don't get to
Yeah.
work out, I don't get my demons away. We all got things going on in our lives, and we shouldn't ever make anything like a conversation super frustrating to the point that we can't enjoy our day.
Well, and that's the other thing. Like, you really hit the nail on the head for me because like I'm legally blind.
What?
I can't hardly see anything.
Like Stevie
I'm being
Wonder
honest.
blind, or
I'm blind in my right eye, and I have super limited vision in my other. Like, I can't drive.
can you read? Do you have to read the things, or you still can kind of see? But like, is there sometimes you can't really see what it says, and you have to read the braille thing?
No, I don't do braille, but I do have like devices and electronics and stuff to help magnify. Like I read large print.
Like that's a thing though. The virus, you can't touch anything. Blind people are fucked. How are they going to get around?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. All right, but no, seriously, what you were saying though, like, how'd you get
Well,
blind?
no, but we all have our things. And I don't like with me. I don't want to be defined by that.
Well, how'd you
Like I
get
was saying
how did
earlier.
you get blind? I didn't know until now. So this is a fucking
Oh
you
yeah.
you
Well, I mean,
pistol whipped me.
no, you're good, bro. I don't normally tell people, but I'm appreciating this conversation. And like I was saying, like if we can help people, then that's awesome. Like that's what like, I want to do. I've also had a kidney transplant too. So I've had all kinds of stuff. Like I used to weigh over 660 pounds and I had a gastric bypass, and now I'm like 260. Like I've lost like 2 of me. So, and every operation I've ever had, like I've literally almost died. Like, but I'm still here. So, you're talking about the idea of appreciation of little things, like, that you're saying, oh, I appreciate the beauty of an ant, or like I have lung air in my lungs or whatever. Like, all that for me, and as crazy as it may sound, because I've had these conversations with people, like, how can you still believe in God and all this stuff has happened to you? I feel like personally, it is my belief in Christ that has helped pull me out of those dark moments. That has helped pull me out of, the wallowing in despair and all that. And listen, I it's not like I've achieved anything. I still struggle with that, but
People even receive the opposite too. It's like we're saying before, we're changing perspective. It's how people choose to believe. You can get religious from it, or you can, like I've seen, I've dealt with people that are addicts, addiction people, when I did addiction counseling and stuff, and that they turn to God because that was something that kept their mind off drinking or doing drugs or
yeah.
something. It's why I understand everybody.
Yeah, well, no, even like exercise. Like I exercise, almost every day. Like it's important not just for health reasons, but also like, like you're talking about, like, putting the demons at bay. Like, yeah, that's. I think if I can, I don't want to speak for you, but what my impression is, I'm getting from what you're saying is that we aren't one-dimensional entities. There's more. There's more to each individual human than what the initial, like some guy with the spare tire, like you're saying.
It's
How
just
do we
under
know
the
that guy,
surface.
yeah, how do we know, and I've been here, done that, how do we know that guy's wife didn't just leave him that day, and he has he has kids that he has to go and go get some groceries for, and he's worried about them because of all the, it's being able to step outside of ourselves momentarily and think, okay, have I ever messed up? Am I flawed? Have I ever, A, B, or C? And it's, it's the lost art of empathy.
Yep. That's
You know,
literally, people talk about like psychic abilities, being an empath, all these stuff. Like I can read people pretty fucking well. I can talk to people. I can always vibe in a conversation, but it's so awkward to me because the way I can sense if someone's having a rough day, and nobody ever truly cares to address it. I've had some pretty rough days where it's like you're trying to have someone ask you, and it's like you're trying to get on your face or something like, look, I'm really, really upset, or you can even mention it, and people just don't really actually care. They're like, uh-huh, okay, well, have a good one, that sounds great. And it's like, what the
yeah.
like, come on, man.
Well,
But
it's like you see someone like, hey, how you doing today? You don't really care. Let me rephrase it. Most of the times, you probably don't really care. You just feel you have to exchange a nicety.
and that's when I tell people, if I ask you how your day is going, I care. Because I really intentionally do. I'm not going to
Yeah,
ask something I don't do. I told Russian kids, foreign kids that come to my old work and used to come on a student visa. They're like, everyone here is two-faced, but I know when you ask me how my day is, you actually mean it. I'm like, because why am I going to sit there, ask a question, and then not listen? I'll
yeah.
sit in silence. I don't care. People think like, oh, since I do this podcast and I talk to people every single day, that I go and must talk to everyone in the world. Not really.
No, no, I'm the same way. Yeah,
I'm pretty silent, and I probably drop like one word or two words that's a joke or a pun, and then get someone to chuckle because I know when people are having a hard day. But it's the
yeah,
same thing. This is just us talking. It's not us giving out like factual information or trying to do this and run with it like most people that listen to media. Take with it what you will and understand it's not difficult to have a conversation. And now that every time someone mentions the word flawed, I'm going to think of your fucking podcast, Bill. Because you've
well,
said
you're
it
welcome,
probably
man.
12 times, and every time you said flawed, I usually thought a gem or something from RuneScape when I was a kid. Now I keep thinking
Nice.
flawed ink, flawed ink, flawed ink, and I realize that's a tattoo shop name.
Well, yeah, so I've been trying to, last couple minutes, I haven't mentioned it. Just to let you know, I've been purposeful in not bringing it up. But, actually where that from is I have a book that's going to be coming out in a little while, in a couple months. And, the whole idea of flawed ink is kind of a dual purpose where like Flawed Ink, like I and K in regards to like writing. The idea of flawed. Actually, you can laugh if you want, but one day I was kind of like thinking and praying, and I was listening to a Dashboard Confessional song called "Vindicated." And at one point in that song, he just yells out, I am flawed, but I'm cleaning up so well. And like, it really hit me when I heard him say that word flawed. Something just really deeply resonated in me that, yeah, I am flawed. I am deeply, deeply flawed.
It's called
And
indigestion.
but so even like with the book coming out, or like, I'm already started to work on my second book, or with our podcast, or with my life. I am flawed. I am imperfect. I don't want to give the air that I am, especially being somebody like that professes to be a faith. I don't want people to like, well, look at that guy. He, blah, blah, blah. Because I'm not arrived. I'm not a scholar. I'm not, this or that. But I really want to be sincere. I really, really do. And I really do want to help people with the ability that I have and what I can. Like you're doing with this podcast, man. And, I feel like as humans, the best thing that we can ascribe to is to help others. There's an old theologian, his name is Charles Spurgeon, and I'm going to paraphrase his quote, but he basically said the best legacy, or I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. He said, don't leave your impact in money or don't material things, but write your impact on people's heart. Let your epitaph not be on a tombstone, but on people's heart. And when I read that, I'm like, wow, we aren't, we all go the way of the world, as the scriptures say. So we're all going to die. I mean, that's the one thing, whether it be coronavirus or whether, we die of old age. Kenny Rogers just passed away yesterday. God bless the gambler. But, we all have that in common. That's the one commonality that we all have. And I would hope that, I really do. I'm not saying this to sound like, I'm not trying to be pretentious. I'm just being real honest with you here. I really just want to make a positive impact in people's lives. If my story can do that, then that's awesome, but if it's not, then that's awesome too. But at least I want to try. I want to get in that arena. I want to be that man in the arena. And I want other people, be that man, be that woman in the arena, and try, try to make a difference.
You just want a shot to make a change.
A positive change.
Exactly.
And like when I talk to people about like the difficulties I've gone through, they, like I said, the one question I always get is, you seem relatively happy. You seem relatively normal. I'd be pissed off if I couldn't do this or couldn't do that. And I'm like, I think you're looking at it as what you've lost versus what you've gained or what you still have. And I'm not a cup half full or half empty kind of guy, or half full. I'm more half empty and not half full, excuse me. But, every day I wake up and I can still see that I got to take my dog out. That's awesome. Or I can still, like, I work out every day too. I go on like a 4-mile walk every morning. Every morning I can go and I can still do that. That's awesome. Thank you, God. And even this opportunity to talk with you, man, I'm so thankful for this opportunity. And I really want you to know that sincerely.
I appreciate that. I'm thankful that you took the chance to come out too. I know it was out of the blue, but that's what we call out of the blank, I guess. I should have dropped the name there. Damn it.
That's okay. Well, out of the blank podcast, man. Well, like I said, the ones I have listened to, they're informative and they're great. And you have so many varied people on there. And I just want, I want to encourage you, Rob. What you're doing, you have gotten in that arena.
Oh, God, I know you and ego. Stop. Don't. I hate when people compliment me because
no, I'm not trying to feed your ego. I want to encourage you, right? Because we have people. I'm not trying to plug again, but we have people that listen to us, and they're like, man, I wish, I love what you guys are doing. I wish I could do that too. And the reality of it is like, you and I are having a conversation. My buddy Jason and I, that's what we do. We come to my house and I set up our mics and we just have a conversation about whatever topic. And it's you've gotten that arena. And whether you're talking about like, we're talking about politics, religion, whatever, or, you're talking about healthcare, or you're talking about culinary arts, or, whatever the case may be, you are putting out information that is impactful and that is life changing. And the reality of it is that most people once again, not to be an ass, but most people don't have the stones to put themselves out there. And you do, man. So that, my hat's off to you for that.
Well, I appreciate that, man. And I think to end on a good quote, I do want to quote the Courage the Cowardly Dog episode with the eel in the bathtub, where he said, "Life is full of imperfections, but that's the beauty in it."
Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
Bill, come on. We're going to give you one more plug. Plug your podcast and everything here at the end.
Okay.
I'm going to let you do
Awesome.
it. I've already went down with Leo. We're underwater because Rose was sitting on the door floating, and we just froze
That's
our ass off.
selfish. Why couldn't she scoot her ass over? That's all I'm
Right?
going to say.
It's Leo
I
DiCaprio.
just,
You get your ass in the water.
and you know, I hate that movie. I was managing a record store when that came out. And we sold all those CDs of Celine Dion, and the best part of that movie was the drawing scene. And I know every guy in America that's had to see that knows what I'm talking about. But you know, we're called Flawedcast. Flawedink.com is our website. Info@flawedink.com. You know, you can listen to us anywhere podcasts are. Once again, it's Flawed Ink or Flawedcast or Flawedcast CLE. You know, we're on YouTube. We appreciate any love, any support, and you know, once again, we want to thank you, man. Really, this has been such a remarkable experience, and I hope that we can do this again soon. I really appreciated this.
And thank you so much for listening to this episode Out of the Blank podcast. And stay tuned for our next episode.